Jesus probably would have spoken some Greek, but certainly not enough for any of it to have actually made its way into the New Testament. Hey everybody, I'm Dan McClellan. I'm a scholar of the Bible and religion, and in my video number McClellan 2670, I responded to a video that claimed that Jesus said tetelestai on the cross, and this Greek word, which is translated "it is finished," actually means a bunch of different things all at the same time because it's importing a bunch of meaning from a bunch of different contexts. And in my video, I pointed out that that is a pretty significant fallacy, and also that those meanings are not actually supported by the data in those different contexts. But there was an oversight on my part. A lot of people pointed out in the comments that Jesus wouldn't have said a Greek word hanging on the cross anyway. So whatever tetelestai actually could mean, it was the work of the authors of the Gospel of John and not something that Jesus himself said. And that's absolutely true. And I know I pointed that out in at least some of the takes for that video, but obviously it didn't make it into the final cut. And so that was an oversight on my part. But Jesus probably would have spoken some Greek. He spent 30 years living in Nazareth, a little hamlet just over the ridge from a pretty decent-sized Greco-Roman city called Sepphoris. And so if his work, whatever its exact nature, took him beyond the boundaries of this little valley that Nazareth was located in, he probably would have had to pick up some marketplace Greek in order to get around. But certainly it would not be anything remotely as sophisticated and as literarily informed as a lot of the discourses that we find in Greek in the Gospels. So when people talk about the New Testament containing the words of Jesus, at best, there may be a couple of places where the authors of the Gospel are transliterating Aramaic into Greek. If those sayings go back to the historical Jesus, then that's the closest you can get. But we can't really be sure that any of them actually go back to a historical Jesus. And the overwhelming majority of the words that are written in red are translations into Greek, which means a lot of the significance is on the level of the translation and not the level of what would have actually been spoken by a historical Jesus. So when we read the New Testament, we need to keep in mind that particularly where there's a lot of polysemy going on, where words have more than one meaning, or the authors are playing with ambiguity or something like that, that's taking place on the literary level, not on the historical level. That's not something that Jesus was doing. That's something that the authors of the Gospels are doing. And the reality is that when we engage the Gospels, we should be engaging them as literary productions and not as verbatim accounts or found footage of what the historical Jesus actually would have said, because we don't really know, apart from just kind of gist vibes, what the historical Jesus actually said. So thank you everybody for pointing out in the comments that Jesus wouldn't even have been speaking Greek anyway, and for filling in that gap that I left in that video. And the fit for this video has been Venom Lethal Protector.